Hi, hello. Welcome to i-TUTOR NCERT series. Today, we are going to discuss Class 12 Geography NCERT Fundamentals of Human Geography Chapter 4 Primary Activities. Let's start. Human activities which generate income are known as economic activities. Okay, so what are known as economic activities? The human activities which generate income. Okay, so the human activities that generate income, that is known as economic activities. Economic activities are broadly grouped into primary, secondary, tertiary and quaternary activities. Okay, so it can be again classified, or the economic activities are broadly grouped, or they are classified into four types: primary, secondary, tertiary and quaternary. Primary activities directly depend on environment, as these refer utilization of Earth's resources such as land, water, vegetation, building materials and minerals. Okay, so the primary activities, they are directly depend. Okay, they are directly depend on environment because they are used, or they use the resources of Earth directly, such as land, water, vegetation, building materials and minerals. It thus includes hunting and gathering, pastoral activities, fishing, forestry, agriculture and mining and quarrying. Okay, so these are some of the primary activities. Now, what is hunting and gathering? The earliest human beings depend on their immediate environment for their sustenance. They are sustained on animals which they hunted and edible plants which they gathered from the forest in the vicinity. Primitive societies are dependent on wild animals. People located in very cold and extremely hot climates survived on hunting. Okay, so these are some of the common factors about the past people or the old peoples. The people in the coastal areas still catch fish through fishing has experienced modernization due to the technological process. Many species now have become extinct or endangered due to illegal hunting. Okay, that is poaching. The early hunters used a primitive tool made of stones, stone tips or arrows, so that number of animals killed was limited. Now, gathering and hunting are the oldest economic activity known. These are carried out at different levels with different orientations. Gathering is practiced in regions with harsh climate conditions. It often involves primitive societies who extract both plants and animals to satisfy their needs for food, shelter and clothing. This types of activity requires a small amount of capital investment and operates at very low level of technology. The yield per person is very low and little or no surplus is produced. Now, the gathering is practiced in the high latitude zones, which including northern Canada, northern Eurasia and southern Chile. Then low latitudes such as Amazon basins, tropical Africa, northern fringe of Australia and the interior parts of Southeast Asia. Okay, so these are some of the places where gathering practiced. Okay, so high latitudes and low latitudes. So high latitudes are northern Canada, northern Eurasia and southern Chile. Then low latitudes are Amazon basins, tropical Africa, northern fringe of Australia and the interior parts of Southeast Asia. In modern times, some gathering is market oriented and has become commercial. Gatherers collect valuable plants such as leaves, barks or trees and medicinal plants, and after simple processing sell the product in market. They use various parts of the plants. For example, the bark is used for quinine, tannin extract and cork. Then leaves supply materials for beverage, drugs, cosmetics, fibers, thatches and fabrics. Nuts for food and oil, and tree trunk yield rubber, balata, gums and resins. Gathering has little chance of becoming important at the global level. Products of such an activities cannot compete in the world market. Moreover, synthetic product often of better quality and at lower prices have replaced many items supplied by the gatherers in the tropical forest. Now, pastoralism. So, what is pastoralism? Pastoralism, at some stages in history, with the realization that hunting is an unsustainable activity, human beings might have thought of domestication of animals. Okay, people living in different climatic conditions selected and domesticated animals found in those regions. Depending on the geographical factors and the technological development, animal rearing today is practiced either at the subsistence or at the commercial level. Okay, so there are subsistence or commercial level of animal rearing are practiced. Now, what is nomadic herding? Nomadic herding or pastoral nomadism is a primitive subsistence activity in which the herders rely on animals for food, clothing, shelter, tools, and transport. They move from one place to another along with their livestock depending on the amount and quality of pastures and water. Each nomadic community occupies a well-identified territory as a matter of tradition. A wide variety of animals is kept in different regions. In tropical Africa, cattle are the most important livestock. Okay, so in tropical Africa, the most important livestock are cattle. But while in Sahara and Asiatic deserts, sheep, goats, and camel are reared. Okay, so in tropical Africa, the cattle are the most important livestock. But at the same time, while in Sahara, the Asiatic desert, Sahara and in Asiatic deserts, the sheep, goats, and camels are reared. In the mountainous areas of Tibet and ants, yak and llamas, and in the Arctic and subarctic areas, reindeers are the most important animals. Okay, so the mountainous areas of Tibet and ants, yak and llamas are mainly reared, and in the Arctic and subarctic areas, reindeer are the most important animals. Now, pastoral nomadism is associated with three important regions. The core region extends from the Atlantic shores of North Africa eastward across the Arabian Peninsula into Mongolia and central China. The second region extends over the tundra region of Eurasia. In the southern hemisphere, there are small areas in southwest Africa and on the islands of Madagascar. Movements in search of pastures is undertaken either over vast horizontal distances or vertically from one elevation to another in the mountainous region. The process of migration from plain areas to pastures on mountains during summers and again from mountain pastures to plains area during winter is known as transhumance. Okay, so what is called transhumance? The process of migration from plain areas to pastures or mountains during summer and again from mountain pastures to plain areas during winter. So this is known as transhumance. In mountain region such as Himalayas, Gujars, Bakarwals, Gaddis and Bhotias migrate from plains to the mountains in summer and to the plains from the high altitude pastures in winters. Similarly, in the tundra regions, the nomadic herders move from south to north in summers and from north to south in winters. The number of pastoral nomads has been decreased and the area operated by them shrinking. This is due to imposition of political boundaries and new settlement plans by different countries. Okay, now moving forward. Commercial livestock rearing. What is called commercial livestock rearing? Unlike nomadic herding, commercial livestock rearing is most organized and capital intensive. Okay, so this is important point, that is capital intensive. Commercial livestock ranching is essentially associated with Western cultures and is practiced on permanent ranches. These ranches covered large areas and are divided into a number of parcels which are fenced to regulate the grazing. When the grass of one parcel is grazed, animals are moved to another parcel. The number of animals in pastures is kept according to the carrying capacity of pastures. This is a specialized activity in which only one type of animal is reared. important animals including sheep, cattle, goat and horses. Products such as meat, wool, hides and skin are processed and packed scientifically and exported to different world markets. Rearing of animals in ranching is organized on a scientific basis. The main emphasis is on breeding, genetic improvement, disease control and healthcare of the animals. New Zealand, Australia, Argentina, Uruguay and United States of America are important countries where commercial livestock rearing is practiced. Okay, so that's about the commercial livestock rearing. Now, agriculture. Agriculture is practiced under multiple combinations of physical and socio-economic conditions which gives rise to different types of agriculture systems. Based on methods of farming, different types of crops are grown and livestock raised. The following are the main agriculture systems. First one, subsistence agriculture. What is called subsistence agriculture? The agriculture is one in which the farming areas consume all or nearly so of the products locally grown. It can be grouped into two categories: primitive subsistence agriculture and intensive subsistence agriculture. Okay, so the subsistence agriculture can be classified into two. First one is primitive subsistence and second one is intensive subsistence. Second one is, so first one, primitive subsistence. What is primitive subsistence? Look at this. The primitive subsistence agriculture or shifting cultivation, okay, so this is also known as shifting cultivation, is widely practiced by main tribes in the tropics, especially in the Africa, South and Central America and Southeast Asia. Okay, so these are the main places where shifting cultivation or the primitive subsistence agriculture is practiced. Okay, that is tropical area, especially in Africa, South and Central America and the Southeast Asia. Okay, so these are the places where shifting cultivation is widely practiced. The vegetation is usually cleared by fire and the ashes add to the fertility of the soil. Okay, so what they do, the vegetation is usually cleared by what method? By fire. Okay, they put fire on it and the ash from the fire are used to add the fertility of the soil. Shifting cultivation is thus also called slash and burn agriculture. The cultivated patches are very small and the cultivation is done with very primitive tools such as sticks and hoes. Okay, so they use only primitive tools. After some time, that is 3 to 5 years, the soil loses its fertility and the farmers shift to another parts and clear other patches of the forest for cultivation. Okay, so after some time, that is around 3 to 5 years, the soil loses its fertility and what they do, the farmers shift it to another place. The farmer may return to the earlier patches after some time. Okay, then again after some time the farmers return to the earlier patches. One of the major problems of shifting cultivation is the cycle of zoom becomes less and less due to the loss of fertility in different parcels. Okay, so this is one of the major problems. It is prevalent in tropical regions in different names. Example, zooming in northeastern states of India, then milpa in Central America and Mexico, then ladang in Indonesia and Malaysia. Okay, so these are some of the names of primitive subsistence agriculture or the slash and burn agriculture. Okay, now next one is intensive subsistence agriculture. This type of agriculture is largely found in densely populated regions of the monsoon Asia. Okay, so these types of agriculture, they are mainly prevalent in the densely populated regions of the monsoon Asia. Basically, there are two types of intensive subsistence agriculture. First one, the intensive subsistence agriculture dominated by wet paddy cultivation. This type of agriculture is characterized by dominance of the rice crop. Okay, so here the rice crop is dominated. Land holdings are very small due to the high density of population. Okay, so the land holdings are very small. Why? Because they are high density of the population. Farmers work with the help of family labor leading to the intensive use of land. use of machinery is limited and most of the agriculture operations are done by manual labor. Okay, so here the use of machineries are limited, machines are limited, and they mainly do most of the agriculture operations by manual labor. Farmyard manure is used to maintain the fertility of the soil. Okay, in this type of agriculture, the yield per unit area is high, but per labor productivity is low. Okay, so what is the problem here? Here the labor productivity is low, but the yield per unit area, that is high. Intensive subsistence agriculture dominates by crops other than paddy. Okay, so first one is intensive subsistence agriculture dominated by wet paddy cultivation. Second one is intensive subsistence agriculture dominated by crops other than paddy. Okay, now due to difference in relief, climate, soil and some of the other geographical factors, it is not practical to grow paddy in many parts of the monsoon Asia. Okay, so due to some reasons, what happened? It is not easy or it is not practical to grow paddy in many places. Okay, now wheat, soybean, barley and sorghum are grown in northern China, Manchuria, North Korea and North Japan. Now in India, wheat is grown in western parts of the Indo-Gangetic plains and millets are grown in dry parts of western and southern India. Most of the characteristics of this type of agriculture are similar to those dominated by wet paddy, except that irrigation is often used. Okay. Now, moving forward, the European colonized many parts in the world and they introduced some other forms of agriculture such as plantations, which were mainly profit-oriented large-scale production system. Okay. Next one is plantation agriculture. So what is plantation agriculture? The plantation agriculture, as mentioned above, was introduced by the Europeans in colonies situated in the tropics. Okay, so this is introduced by the Europeans in the colonies situated in tropics. Some of the important plantation crops are tea, coffee, cocoa, rubber, cotton, oil palm, sugarcane, bananas and pineapples. Okay, so these are some of the important plantation crops. The characteristic features of this type of farming are large estates of plantations, large capital investment, managerial and technical support, scientific methods of cultivation, single crop specialization, cheap labor and a good system of transportation which links the estate to the factories and markets for the export of the product. Okay, so these are some of the important features, features of these types of farming, that is the plantation agriculture. The French established cocoa and coffee plantations in the West Africa. The British set up large tea gardens in India and Sri Lanka. Then rubber plantations in Malaysia and sugarcane and banana plantations in West Indies. Spanish and Americans invested heavily in coconut and sugarcane plantations in Philippines. The Dutch once had a monopoly over sugarcane plantation in Indonesia. Some coffee fazendas, that is large plantations, in Brazil are still managed by Europeans. Today, ownership of the majority of plantations has passed into the hands of government or the nationals of the countries concerned. Okay, so that's about the plantation agriculture. Now, next one is extensive commercial grain cultivation. What is extensive commercial grain cultivation? Commercial grain cultivation is practiced in the interior part of the semi-arid lands of the mid-latitudes. Wheat is the principal crop, though other crops like corn, barley, oats and rye are also grown. The size of the farm is very large, therefore entire operations of cultivation from plowing to harvesting are mechanized. Okay, so here the size of the farm, that is very large, so they need to use the machines for plowing to harvesting. Okay, so every operations, from that is the entire operation from the plowing to harvesting, they use machines. Okay, there is low yield per acre but high yield per person. Okay, so here the low yield per acre but high yield per person. This type of agriculture is best developed in Eurasian steppes and Canadian and American prairies, then pampas of Argentina, the Wells of South Africa, Australian Downs, and the Canberra Plains of New Zealand. Okay, so these types of agriculture that is mainly prevalent in these places. Now, mixed farming. The form of agriculture is found in highly developed parts of the world. Example, Northwestern Europe, Eastern North America, parts of Eurasia, and the temperate latitudes of southern continents. Okay, so these are some of the places where mixed farming is highly developed. Mixed farms are moderate in size, and usually the crops associated with it are wheat, barley, oats, rice, maize, fodder, and food and root crops. Okay, so these are the crops. Okay, these are mainly used crops for the mixed farming. Fodder crops are an important component of mixed farming. Crop rotation and intercropping play an important role in maintaining soil fertility. Okay, so for maintaining soil fertility, they do crop rotating and intercropping. Equal emphasis is laid on crop cultivation and animal husbandry. Okay, so they give equal importance for crop cultivation as well as animal husbandry. Animals like cattle, sheep, pigs, and poultry provides the main income along with crops. Mixed farming is characterized by high capital expenditure on farm machinery and building, extensive use of chemical fertilizers and green manures, and also by the skill and experts of farmers. Okay. Now, dairy farming. Dairy is the most advanced and efficient types of rearing of milk animals. It is highly captive intensive. Animal sheds, storage facilities for fodder, feeding, and milking machines add to the cost of dairy farming. Okay, so these things add the cost of dairy farming. Special emphasis is laid on cattle breeding, healthcare, and veterinary services. It is highly labor intensive as it involves rigorous care in feeding and milking. There is no off season during the year as in the case of crop rising. Okay, so there is no seasons during the year as in the case of crop rising. It is practiced mainly near urban and industrial centers which provide neighborhood markets for fresh milk and dairy products. The development of transportation, refrigeration, pasteurization, and other preservation processes have increased the duration of storage of various dairy products. Okay. Now, there are three main regions of commercial dairy farming. The largest is Northwestern Europe, the second is Canada, and the third belt includes Southeastern Australia, New Zealand, and Tasmania. Okay. Now, Mediterranean agriculture. Mediterranean agriculture is highly specialized commercial agriculture. Okay, so this is a highly specialized commercial agriculture. It is practiced in the countries on either side of the Mediterranean Sea, in Europe, and in the North Africa from Tunisia to Atlantic coast. Then Southern California, Central Chile, southwestern part of the South Africa, and southwestern part of Australia. And this region is important supply of citrus fruits. Okay, so the Mediterranean agriculture, this is mainly important for the supply of citrus fruits. Now, viticulture or grape cultivation is a specialty of the Mediterranean region. Okay, so the viticulture or grape cultivation, this is one of the specialty of Mediterranean region. Best quality wines in the world with distinctive flavors are produced from high quality grapes in various countries of this region. The inferior grapes are dried into raisins and currants. This region also provides olives and figs. The advantage of Mediterranean agriculture is that more valuable crops such as fruits and vegetables are grown in winters when there is great demand in the European and North American markets. Okay, so that's about the Mediterranean agriculture. Next one is market gardening and horticulture. Market gardening and horticulture specialize in the cultivation of high-value crops such as vegetables, fruits, and flowers solely for the urban markets. Farms are small and are located where there are good transportation linked with the urban center where high-income group of consumers is located. It is both labor and capital intensive and lays emphasis on the use of irrigation, HYV seeds, fertilizers, insecticides, greenhouses, and artificial heating in colder regions. Okay. Now, this type of agriculture is well developed in densely populated industrial districts of Northwest Europe, Northeastern United States of America, and the Mediterranean region. Okay, so these are some of the main places providing these types of agriculture. The Netherlands specializes in growing flowers and horticulture crops, especially tulips, which are flown to all major cities of Europe. The region where farmers specialize in vegetables only, the farming is known as truck farming. Okay, so the region where the farmers specialize in vegetable only, then the farming is known as truck farming. The distance of truck farms from the market is governed by the distance that a truck can cover overnight. Hence the name truck farming. Okay, so that's why the name truck farming. In addition to market gardening, a modern development in the industrial regions of Western Europe and North America is factory farming. Livestock, particularly poultry and cattle rearing, is done in stalls and pens, fed on manufactured feedstuff and carefully supervised against diseases. This requires heavy capital investment in terms of building machinery for various operations, veterinary services, and heating and lighting. One of the important features of poultry farming and the cattle rearing is breed selection and scientific breeding. Types of farming can also be categorized according to the farming organization. Okay, so we already classified the types of farming. Now it can be also categorized according to the farming organization. So farming organization is affected by the way in which farmers own their farms and various policies of the government which helps to run these farms. So first one is cooperative farming. What is cooperative farming? A group of farmers form a cooperative society by pooling in their resources voluntarily for more efficient and profitable farming. Individual farms remain intact and farming is a matter of cooperative initiative. Cooperative societies help farmers to procure all important inputs of farming, sell the products at the most favorable terms, and helps in processing of quality products at cheaper rates. Okay, so that's important. The cooperative movements originated over a century ago and has been successful in many Western European countries like Denmark, Netherlands, Belgium, Sweden, Italy, etc. In Denmark, the movement has been so successful that practically every farmer is a member of the cooperative. Now, what is called collective farming? The basic principle behind this type of farming is based on social ownership of the means of production and collective labor. Collective farming of the model of kolkhoz was introduced in the erstwhile Soviet Union to improve upon the inefficiency of previous methods of agriculture and to boost agriculture production for self-sufficiency. The farmers used the pool in all their sources like land, livestock, and labor. However, they were allowed to retain very small plots to grow crops in order to meet their daily requirements. Okay, so they were allowed to retain very small plots to grow crops. For what? To meet their daily requirements. Now, mining. The discovery of minerals in the history of human development is reflected in many stages in terms of Copper Age, Bronze Age, and Iron Age. The use of minerals in ancient times was largely confined to the market of tools, utensils, and weapons. The actual development of mining began with the Industrial Revolution and its importance is continuously increasing. Okay, so the actual development of mining, that is mainly came in the Industrial Revolution period and its importance is still increasing. Now, what are factors affecting mining activities? The profitability of mining operations thus depends on two main factors. First one, physical factors including size, grade, and the mode of occurrence of the deposits. Second one, economic factors such as the demand for the mineral, technology available and used, capital to develop infrastructure, and the labor and transport cost. Okay, so these are the main factors which depends mining. Now, methods of mining. Depending on the modes of occurrence and the nature of the ore, mining is of two types. Okay, so mining is of two types depending on the occurrence and the nature of the ore. The surface and underground mining. The surface mining is also known as open cast mining, is the easiest and the cheapest way of mining minerals that occur close to the surface. Okay, so first one is the surface mining. That is, it is the easiest or the cheapest way because they occur minerals close to the surface. Overhead cost such as the safety precautions and equipment is relatively low in this method. The output is both large and rapid. When the ore lies deep below the surface, underground mining method is needed. Okay, so when the ore lies deep below the surface, then we use underground mining method, that is shaft method. In this method, vertical shafts have to be sunk from where underground galleries are ready to reach the minerals. Minerals are extracted and transported to surface through these passages. It requires specially designed lift, drills, haulage, vehicles, ventilation system for safety and efficient movement of people and material. This method is risky. Okay, so this method is very risky. Poisonous gases, fires, floods and cavings in lead to fatal accident. Okay, so this method is very risky because they can make many accidents. The developed economies are retreating from mining, processing and refining stages of production due to high labor cost, while the developing countries with large labor forces and striving for higher standard of living are becoming more important. Okay, so the developed countries are now retreating from mining, but at the same time the developing countries are very largely involving into the mining process. Several countries of Africa and a few of South America and Asia have over 50% of the earnings from mineral alone. Okay, so that is the method of mining. So that's about the chapter. If you have any doubts, you can comment below. For more videos, do like, share, subscribe.